Today, we're diving into the bold and controversial campaign proposals of former President Donald Trump, who's stirring the pot with a plan to implement the most significant increase in tariffs we've seen in nearly a century. What does this mean for the future of global trade? With his sights set on discouraging imports and boosting American manufacturing, Trump's economic strategy could potentially reshape the landscape of both the U.S. and global economies. Join us as we unpack the far-reaching implications of this game-changing proposal. Let's get into it. It's interesting to see how political campaigns can reshape economic policies, especially when it comes to tariffs. A shift like this could lead to significant changes in how countries interact with one another economically. Trump's tariff proposal includes automatic duties ranging from 10% to 20% on all trading partners of the U.S., with the possibility of tariffs escalating to as much as 60% on imports from China. In more extreme scenarios, he has even suggested that tariffs could reach up to 1,000%. This strategy represents a marked departure from the current trading environment, which is defined by mutual dependence and lower trade barriers. Economists have raised concerns that such proposals could disrupt existing supply chains, elevate consumer prices, and incite retaliatory actions from other countries. It seems quite radical to propose such high tariffs. It raises questions about how such changes could impact both consumers and producers in the long run. It's always a balancing act in trade relations. The initial consequence of implementing these tariffs would likely be a significant rise in the costs of everyday items, ranging from groceries to electronics. Economists estimate that households in the U.S. could face an additional financial burden of between $2,600 and $7,600 per year. Low-income families might be particularly hard hit, experiencing an estimated 6% increase in costs, while wealthier households would see only a 1.4% rise. Trump's assertion that these tariffs would primarily impact foreign producers contradicts the economic consensus, which suggests that the associated costs are usually passed on to consumers. It's concerning to think about how everyday expenses could rise due to policy changes. This could disproportionately affect those with lower incomes, which raises ethical questions about economic fairness. Furthermore, U.S. manufacturers might see a dramatic drop in orders as foreign markets respond with their own tariffs. Numerous businesses and governments are already bracing for these potential changes, highlighting widespread apprehension regarding the effects on international trade. The anticipation of such tariffs by companies suggests that many are already preparing for a potentially difficult trade environment. It shows just how interconnected global trade really is. Trump asserts that increasing tariffs will rejuvenate American manufacturing and bring jobs back to the U.S. According to the Coalition for a Prosperous America, a 10% universal tariff could result in the creation of 3 million jobs and significantly enhance U.S. manufacturing output. However, some analysts caution that such projections may be overly optimistic and fail to consider the challenges involved in revamping domestic supply chains. It's always intriguing to hear different perspectives on job creation. It's clear that while some see potential benefits, others are cautious about the practical challenges of implementing such a significant policy change. A large portion of the goods consumed in the U.S. is currently imported, making it unlikely that domestic production could quickly scale up to meet demand. The U.S. heavily depends on imports for essential items like food and pharmaceuticals, which means that a sudden implementation of higher tariffs could lead to immediate adverse effects on consumer availability and affordability.
This reliance on imports really highlights the complexity of the situation. A shift in tariffs could lead to shortages, which might ultimately hurt consumers more than help them. The financial markets are likely to react negatively to Trump's proposed tariffs, reminiscent of trends seen during his previous term. Historical evidence indicates that stock prices tended to drop following major tariff announcements, with predictions suggesting a possible 10% decline in the market if a universal tariff were enacted. Key industries such as retail and automotive manufacturing could face significant earnings reductions. Investors and financial analysts have voiced concerns that elevated tariffs might create a volatile market, which could hinder economic growth. Market reactions to policy announcements can be quite telling. It underscores the interconnectedness of economics and politics and how investor confidence can fluctuate with policy changes. The repercussions of these tariffs would extend beyond consumer pricing and stock market fluctuations. They could also influence U.S. interest rates and overall economic expansion. Higher tariffs might lead to rising interest rates due to diminished demand for U.S. Treasury bonds, particularly if foreign countries retaliate against American exports. This situation, coupled with inflationary pressures, could create a scenario reminiscent of stagflation, characterized by stagnant growth and high inflation. The potential for such economic conditions is worrisome. It makes one wonder about the long-term effects of such drastic changes in trade policy. Trump's approach could unravel decades of international trade agreements and collaborative efforts. Traditionally allied nations could retaliate against U.S. exports, similar to the responses seen during his first term when both the European Union and China imposed countermeasures against American goods. This time around, retaliation could be even more severe, particularly affecting crucial sectors like agriculture and manufacturing. Given the intricate nature of global supply chains, a unilateral shift in tariff policy could lead to widespread disruptions, complicating operations for U.S. companies. The potential for escalating tensions between nations is an important consideration. It serves as a reminder of how complex international relationships can be, especially regarding trade. Although Trump and his advisors maintain that these tariffs could compel other nations to adhere to fair trade practices, history indicates that such measures often provoke retaliatory responses. Countries around the globe are already formulating possible strategies to counter a new wave of tariffs, suggesting that a Trump presidency could usher in a period marked by heightened trade conflicts instead of resolutions. The historical context of trade disputes is fascinating. It often seems that aggressive trade measures lead to cycles of retaliation, making one wonder if a more diplomatic approach might be more effective. Implementing a universal tariff would breach U.S. obligations to the World Trade Organization, WTO, resulting in legal disputes that might take years to settle. Nevertheless, immediate retaliatory actions from other nations would likely be swift, underscoring the hazards of abandoning multilateral trade agreements in favor of unilateral strategies. Legal ramifications are a crucial aspect to consider. It raises questions about how the U.S. might navigate these challenges while trying to maintain its economic interests. Donald Trump's tariff proposals have the potential to redefine U.S. economic policy and its relationship with global trade. While framed as a strategy to safeguard American employment and boost domestic manufacturing, the possible economic consequences, such as rising consumer prices, market instability, and retaliatory trade wars, present considerable concerns.